when all the kings west of the Jordan heard about these things, the kings in the hill country, in the western foothills, and along the entire coast of the Mediterranean Sea, as far as Lebanon, the kings of the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, they came together to wage war against Joshua and Israel. However, when the people of Gibeon heard what Joshua had done to Jericho and Ai, they resorted to a ruse. They went as a delegation whose donkeys were loaded, with worn-out sacks and old wineskins, cracked and mended. They put worn and patched sandals on their feet and wore old clothes. All the bread of their food supply was dry and mouldy. Then they went to Joshua in the camp at Gilgal and said to him and the Israelites, "We have come from a distant country. Make a treaty with us." The Israelites said to the Hivites, "But perhaps you live near us, so how can we make a treaty with you?" "We are your servants," they said to Joshua. But Joshua asked, "Who are you, and where do you come from?" They answered, "Your servants have come from a very distant country, because of the fame of the Lord your God. For we have heard reports of him, all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the 2 kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, Sihon, king of Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth. And our elders and all those living in our country said to us, 'Take provisions for your journey, go and meet them and say to them, "We are your servants, make a treaty with us." This bread of ours was warm when we packed it at home on the day we left to come to you. But now see how dry and mouldy it is. And these wineskins that were filled were new, but see how cracked they are. And our clothes and sandals are worn out by the very long journey.' The Israelites sampled their provisions, but did not inquire of the Lord. Then Joshua made a treaty of peace with them to let them live, and the leaders of the assembly ratified it by oath. 3 days after they made the treaty with the Gibeonites, the Israelites heard that they were neighbours living near them. So the Israelites set out, and on the 3rd day came to their cities, Gibeon, Kephirah, Beeroth, and Kiriath Jearim. But the Israelites did not attack them, because the leaders of the assembly had sworn an oath to them by the Lord, the God of Israel. The whole assembly grumbled against the leaders. But all the leaders answered, "We have given them our oath by the Lord, the God of Israel, and we cannot touch them now. This is what we will do to them. We will let them live, so that God's wrath does not fall on us for breaking the oath we swore to them." They continued, "Let them live, but let them be woodcutters and water carriers in the service of the whole assembly." So the leaders' promise to them was kept. Then Joshua summoned the Gibeonites and said, "Why did you deceive us by saying, 'We live a long way from you,' while actually you live near us? You are now under a curse. You will never be released from service as woodcutters and water carriers from the house of my God." They answered Joshua, "Your servants were clearly told how the Lord your God had commanded his servant Moses to give you the whole land and to wipe out all its inhabitants from before you. So we feared for our lives because of you, and that is why we did this. We are now in your hands. Do to us whatever seems good and right to you." So Joshua saved them from the Israelites, and they did not kill them. That day he made the Gibeonites woodcutters and water carriers for the assembly, to provide for the needs of the altar of the Lord at the place the Lord would choose. And that is what they are to this day.
Thank you ever so much. And now for that reading. And now we're in Joshua chapter 9. Now this has already gone past the big battle of Jericho, which was won. It's also Joshua's also had the situation where someone doesn't do what God wants to be done, the sin of Achan, worth looking at that, and hence the whole children of Israel gets in trouble. And now we find something that's going to be repeated. It's when the world realises that actually God is with his people, they start to do a different thing rather than attack straight on. And this can often be true for us. So if we read in chapter 9 that basically the Gibeonites pretended they came from a long distance in order that the children of Israel wouldn't go to war with them. And this pattern of deceit that some people coming along as God's people and deceiving them. And this still happens today. There is deception. So people can come to church, they can come to our group, they can come to the CU, and actually they know that they're not who they're pretending to be. And the Bible talks about us being able to discern, and it also talks about, and this pattern will come come back, false prophets, false teachers. And throughout the Old Testament, it's just down there to, honestly, to help us understand that the children, God's people, have always been able to fight often the straight-on assaults and often get caught out by the deceit, by the subtle ways in. And here we find out that these people pretended to be coming from a long way out, and they got basically they got Joshua to say he wouldn't attack them, and then they go, oh no, actually we're next door. And what's important here is and we see this in Old Testament, is God treats the words of his servants seriously. There is power. One of the things that happens when God enters into a covenant is we become part of God's plan. And so we have to be very careful what we say. Jesus talks about whatever you bind in heaven, whatever you bind in earth will be bound in heaven. And the idea that we give them power. So we've got to be careful what we say. And another reason why, if you like, what did Joshua do wrong? He'd done all these things right. These people came to deceive him, and he didn't seek the Lord about it. You know, he won all these battles. He was even God's person. And so for us to realise that on individual moments of the day, there might be times when it's up to us to say, Lord, is this really what's right for me? Yeah, is this person who's saying that, but is that truly what you want for my life? And this can be in a church meeting, it can be out on the street. But we want to be the sort of people that discern when is the time to seek the Lord. And it's not always just in the morning. And it's not always just on a Sunday. We want to be the people that know that we need the Lord's help when we're in relationships, when we're in those conversations. And so, again, as we find from the Old Testament, is whatever words we say, they are remembered. There is a power in them. But the testimony of the Old Testament and the testimony of our lives, although we make mistakes in what we might say and what we might do, we might get deceived. But the message is God is bigger than that. And God is bigger than that in our lives. But let us be the people that seek God in the everyday in order that we might not be deceived. Thank you so much for being with us again, and I hope you can join us again tomorrow.